So Sex Idiot is my other show. It's a show that was made 5 years ago, 2010, won a couple of awards in Edinburgh. It's a show that I do often. You know, if I am somewhere, it's really easy to tour. It's about having a sexually transmitted infection and then being stupid enough to have never had a sexual health test before, and then going back through your sexual partners or your sexual history and trying to figure out who gave you it. But it's not really about that. It's about regrets and heartache and the things that humans do to one another, and how you kind of make amends if you've done those things. You know, it's a quest, a sort of I guess what do they call them? A coming of age story. You know, I was like 29 years old. It's fun, silly. It's at the Garden. It's raucous and colourful and lots of audience participation. It's like an old classic of mine that I wheel out.
So the health industry should be happy with you with all these shows.
Like often in the UK I've had like sexual health clinics get on board to kind of sponsor it and stuff. It is about like sexual health awareness basically, but it's also super feminist. It's a woman talking about her sex life in her past without shame, and I think that we've got same with mental illness, we've got a really long way to go before women have equal footing talking about sexual things in public places. So I think it does a job for feminism, I hope anyway.
Yeah, I think as soon as we start talking about sort of female issues, and I've done this with, you know, I'm a mum, I've done this with mums at you know, different restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
We've got younger male tables, they sort of all of a sudden move away.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a thing that we talk about, and I think that that's sad, you know. And it also again doesn't do us any favours to not allow women to talk freely and openly about their sexuality. You know, if we want an equal society, then we should all be allowed to talk about sex.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a sort of flamboyant romp through like the fact that we don't talk about sex enough, and it's one person talking about it without apologising. And I think that especially for female audience members, is really empowering, and I hope that it's liberating in some way.
Yeah, and you probably don't really talk about your body and sex until you've had kids.
Yeah.
And then like everything's like, oh, it doesn't matter anymore,
exactly.
You know.
And I don't think it matters anyway. Like, I think that women are sexualised into thinking that they're objects, and actually we have our own volition, we have our own free will, and I don't think we should be breeding young women to be scared of that, you know, in the same way we shouldn't be breeding young men to not talk about their emotions. It's just, for me, I like any of my shows strive to smash apart anything that we just accept as standard, because I don't think that should be how evolution happens. You know, we should always be pushing at the things. Hang on, we're not allowed to talk about sex, but men have sex too, so we'll do that now. Let's just do that now.
Yeah. So what made you get into this style of comedy or theatre?
Yeah, I studied performance art at university, and I was always really drawn to less the kind of abstract stuff and much more the kind of just autobiographical, using your own story to kind of really using your own story to talk about the world, you know, using a personal story to talk about the universal. It's quite a thing in the UK. I think you've had some shows over here that I kind of think of as my team, my niche. But I think it's really helpful to have one human being admitting stuff and the other human beings in the audience going, me too. You know, I think that's what theatre's for, as opposed to putting up the fourth wall, showing something and saying and not asking people to kind of think about that. Yeah, so I just studied it and then carried on. Been doing it for 10 years.
Oh, that's fantastic. And this is fun, interesting question, but you know that 50 Shades of Grey has opened like this week.
Yeah.
For those people who don't want to see 50 Shades of Grey or have seen it and are lacking something, should they come and see your show?
They most definitely should, because I think, you know, I'm in that camp that I won't go and see 50 Shades of Grey. A lot of people are saying that it's amounts of domestic abuse on the screen. I'm not interested in it. I'm interested in free will and being like, sex that has permission attached to it is very important, you know. For me anyway, rape culture is something that's so prevalent in society. I think as an alternative to 50 Shades of Grey, Sex Idiot is probably the best thing you could possibly watch this week.
Definitely. And even though the title's more gutsy, it's probably going to be more heartfelt than anything you'll see in the cinema. Yeah.